Hey, Steve Kinsella with Sports Talk Florida here to talk a little Rays baseball. 38 games in the season, the Rays are find themselves at 19 and 19. They've had their ups and their downs. They swept the Los Angeles Angels on the road, only to get swept back by the Seattle Mariners. It looked like they had a series in hand against the Oakland A's until Danny Valencia hit a two-run homer off Steve Geltz on Sunday. Then they go into Toronto. And sweep the series. Not only do they sweep the series, they bang out 44 hits. They score 31 runs. They hit 8 home runs. They take over the major league in home runs. Who would ever thought that at this point in the season the Rays would have the most home runs of any team in the major leagues? But in the offseason, all we did hear about was the word thump. We heard about Hank Conger and Steve Pearce and Logan Morrison and Brad Miller and Corey Dickerson going along with what Casale did at the end of last season with Evan Longoria, with Steven Souza, that they hope would remain healthy all year. This team was supposed to be a team that hit the ball out of the park, and they're living up to their end of the bargain. So far this year, the starting pitching has been inconsistent, and even though they didn't give up a lot of runs to the Blue Jays over the three-game series, the starting pitching still not churning out quality starts, nor are they staying in the game very deep. The Rays are still having to go to the bullpen probably a little bit more than manager Kevin Cash wants to. Last year, there were a lot of instances where, because of inexperience or the fact that guys weren't stretched out or were coming off rehab appearances, Drew Smiley coming off the DL, Matt Andrews coming up to make a couple spot starts, Erasmo Ramirez lengthening himself out and not having the confidence of the coaching staff, and Nate Carnes. These guys weren't going through lineups 3 times. This year, they have a pitching staff that's supposed to be able to go through lineups 3 times, and they're still not. And it's not a matter of Kevin Cash saying, "I'm not going to continue with you tonight because I'm afraid of what you're going to do the 3rd time through the lineup." He's just to the point now where these guys are not performing up to what is needed to get through a lineup 3 times, whether it's erratic control or hard contact or just not having it that day, a combination of things. Kevin Cash is having to go to his bullpen too much. Once we do get and look at the bullpen 38 games into it, you have to be impressed so far with Alex Colomé. The way he has responded to being put in the position to be the closer. They said, "Oh, we're going to go by bullpen by committee," and I always say, I'll believe a bullpen by committee when I see it. A manager loves to find a guy to work the 9th inning, and for the most part this year, it's been Alex Colomé. Sometimes he comes into the 8th like he did last night after Erasmo worked a couple innings. Man at second, you go to Colomé. Right now, the bullpen, it's kind of 2 bullpens right now. You've got your Alex Colomé, you've got your Xavier Cedeno, and you've got your Erasmo Ramirez, and to an extent, even Xavier Cedeno is struggling. But that's kind of your back half of your bullpen. Eddie Romero is kind of stuck in between. He's one of these guys on the front end of the bullpen. He's also one of these guys in the back end of the bullpen. He was really good early, had a little bout of inconsistency, and he's been really good again. Then you get to what we call the belly of the bullpen. Dana Eveland, who should be like the Cesar Ramos of this staff and should not be seen more than maybe once or twice a week. And when he does come in, it should be in situations where the team is either way up or way down. Ryan Webb comes in to get ground balls. Early in the year, he gave up a couple home runs, and his numbers were kind of out of whack, but he's still a greater than 50% ground ball guy, which is what they brought him in for. And Steve Geltz, thus far this year, has been a mess. Going to have to get him straightened out. So the team's 19 and 19. They're enjoying an off day. Brad Boxberger's down in the minor leagues rehabbing. He's made 2 appearances with the Charlotte Stone Crabs in the High A League. His control's a little erratic right now. I'm not sure about the velocity, but it's good to see that he's coming along. Another guy in that bullpen to keep an eye on is Neil Wagner. Neil Wagner throws about 95 miles an hour. Had a very good year a couple of years ago. Then the following season, he got off to a rough start. It did turn out that he needed Tommy John surgery, and he's on his way back. Those 2 guys right now are pitching in the minors, and both of them should be in the big leagues at some point. Boxberger may be sooner than Wagner, but you never know. Wagner could be the first one up. The team now goes over to Detroit to take on the Tigers. The Tigers have struggled this year. It's just 2 years ago when you're getting ready to play the Detroit Tigers, you had to think to yourself, well, we're going to have Anibal Sanchez, David Price, Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander. You're going to get 3 former Cy Young winners, and if you miss one, you get Anibal Sanchez. Well, It's not the same Tigers team. They'll still hit the ball out of the park. They're one of the top offenses in baseball. They still got Victor Martinez and Miguel Cabrera and Ian Kinsler and Castellanos, J.D. Martinez. They're still a very good offense and one that you can't put runners on base. They will hurt you with the long ball. You're going to have to pitch well to beat them. Their starting pitching has not been that fantastic this year. This week, the Rays will go up against Anibal Sanchez, who's 3-4 with a 5.91 ERA on the year. This guy just hasn't been the same for a while. You just don't want to be there when he does figure it out. It's kind of like Rick Porcello with the Boston Red Sox. His numbers may not be that great, but he can still shut you down. And we got to kind of keep an eye on that. But the Rays should, be healthy against the Tigers this weekend. Homer pitching in the second game. I had an opportunity to watch this young guy. He's got one hell of a slider. I mean, it's really fantastic. But he needs to be ahead in the count for it to be an effective pitch. He's a right-hander. He could be, the Rays being aggressive could find themselves in trouble, but they've been less aggressive as of late as far as swinging early in counts or basically swinging out of the zone. I haven't looked at the numbers yet. It just seems to be like that. But when you put up as many runs as they did against Toronto, then a lot of things get clouded as to what's really going on. Maybe it was a good series. Then the Rays go up against the Tigers ace this weekend. And on Sunday afternoon, you have Chris Archer versus Jordan Zimmerman, free agent from the Nationals. He got off to a fantastic start. Overall in the year, he's 6-2 with a 2.45. But in his last three starts, he's 1-2 with a 5.32 ERA. Still, the guy's one of the better pitchers in baseball, and the Rays are going to have their hands full. Once again, Chris Archer finds himself matched up against a solid pitcher, and getting runs for Archie's going to be tough. But Archie's going to have to provide a efficient and solid first inning, and maybe he can go a little bit deeper in the game. It's what he's been trying to do, and it'd be really nice to see him pull it out. After that, the Rays will do a little 4-game home and home, 2 games in Miami and 2 games in back at Tropicana Field in St. Pete, and we'll see where we stand then. As of now, 19-19. It's about what they've done. Inconsistency leads to a .500 record, and the Rays moving forward will hope to do better. All right, thanks.